Hello guys, welcome back to our anime explainer. Guys, please like the video and subscribe to my channel. Today is explanation of upcoming episode of Battle Through the Heavens based on novel. So let's start. Xiao Yan's expression was pleased as he looked at the fire cauldron and stood up. The pill refinement this time around had once again allowed him to feel the great strength of his D-state soul. If this had been in the past, he would have to exhaust himself greatly in order to refine this lightning calamity pill. Moreover, the most important thing was that there was no guarantee of his success after this exhaustion. Bang! The fire cauldron in the sky above began to churn intensely after Xiao Yan stood up. It vaguely gathered into a lightning cloud. Traces of black thunderbolt appeared, just like huge dragons, as they shuttled through the churning cloud in the sky. Pill lightning her. Xiao Yang smiled upon seeing this scene. He did not appear concerned. All he did was to wave his hand and the Northern King rushed out from within his storage ring. It directly turned into a black shadow that charged into the lightning cloud. Immediately, the lightning rumbled in the sky. It was possible to vaguely see the many thunderbolts in the sky rushing crazily towards a human figure. This kind of lightning roar continued for around 10 minutes or so before it gradually disappeared. Finally, many pure lightning strength came pouring down from the lightning clouds and landed into the brilliant golden medicinal pill in the fire cauldron. Buzz buzz. After these lightning strength surged into the pill, the final trace of impurity within the medicinal pill had also been purified. Immediately, a bright golden light erupted from within the medicinal cauldron. The cauldron cover was also forcefully pushed open. That lightning calamity pill within it turned into a light ray that charged towards the sky at a shocking speed. I have spent so much time and hard work to refine you. How can I simply allow you to escape? Xiao Yang laughed. A thought passed through his mind and the huge spiritual figure standing in the sky extended its giant hand. It directly penetrated through the empty space and grabbed onto the escaping golden light. Immediately, his body shrunk and swiftly rushed into Xiao Yang's brow. The brilliant gold medicinal pill was also obediently suspending in front of him. Xiao Yang involuntarily sighed in relief as he looked at the round golden light medicinal pill in front of him. He could sense the terrifying strength within the medicinal pill. The quality of this lightning calamity pill was clearly greater than the Tier 9 mysterious pill that Xiao Yang had refined back at the Yao clan. Of course, this was unsurprising. After all, regardless of whether it was in terms of ingredients or his own ability, all of them had far surpassed those from back then. How much strength I can gain this time around will depend on you. Xiao Yang looked at the golden light medicinal pill in front of him and smiled. Immediately, he covered his eyes with his hands. The lightning calamity pill had turned into a ray of golden light that rushed into his opened mouth. Bang! The lightning calamity pill had only just entered Xiao Yang's body when an incomparably wild and violent ripple spread from within it. Immediately, sandy wind blew over the plains. A huge pit, that was hundreds of feet deep and tens of thousands of feet wide appeared on the plains. Xiao Yang was standing at the middle of that deep pit. The tomb behind Xiao Yang continued to stand under the support of a huge stone pillar. Some faint light was being emitted from the tomb, protecting it from being destroyed. Bright golden lightning glow continued to surge out from within Xiao Yang's body. Finally, it spread over its surface and turned into a low and deep thunder roar. Xiao Yang's hair was in a mess while he was being encompassed by the glittering golden lightning. His originally black hair had immediately appeared as though it had been made of gold. While the surface of his body was undergoing a change, Xiao Yang was also crazily roaring within his body. The wild and violent lightning strength had turned into many furious dragons that went on a crazy rampage within their bodies. Regardless of how they charge around, however, it seemed that it would meet an extremely hard and invisible barrier, which reflected all of them back. At the same time, the purifying demonic lotus flame had also whistled and spread within Xiao Yang's body. It directly used the most peremptory method to devour all of these wild and violent energy. After it was refined, it turned into a rolling pure Do Qi that merged into Xiao Yang's body. With the help of his D-state soul, and the strength of the purifying demonic lotus flame, it would be quite an easy matter to refine the lightning calamity pill. The enormous deep pit had a golden light flickering within it. Xiao Yang's tightly shut eyes had a solemn expression in them. The natural energy gradually formed some ripples. Finally, it gathered on this plains. At a glance, it seemed as though there was a world tide-like mysterious scene. Using one's own Do Qi to cause a world tide. There were hardly anyone in this world with the strength to do this. Jiu Yuan had also drew a world tide back then. However, its might was clearly many times greater than this world tide Xiao Yang had stirred. After all, there was still a big gap between Xiao Yang and his strength. However, this scene was already quite incredible. If it was an ordinary 7-star elite Doshing, it was likely extremely difficult to perform something like this. The reason Xiao Yang was able to do it was partly because of his DI state soul. The many energy bodies on the surrounding plains involuntarily had a change in expression after seeing the small-scale energy tide in the sky. This person can really be considered a genius. When I met him for the first time back then, he merely had the strength of a Dozun. However, the next time I meet him, he had already advanced into the Doshing class. This speed can be considered terrifying. Now, he had advanced to an even higher level. In the future, he might really be able to reach the peak level like Xiao Xian, Saint Shuidao muttered to himself. A vague respect was revealed in his eyes. This achievement of Xiao Yang really caused one to have no other choice but to admire him. The surging energy tide had lasted for 10 full days. Only then did it gradually weakened. After another 2 days, the energy tide had finally completely disappeared. A golden light suddenly charged upwards from the enormous deep pit when the energy tide scattered. Looking from a distance, it appeared as though it had penetrated through the world, giving it an extremely spectacular appearance. The golden light shot towards the sky while a figure slowly rose into the air. After which, the figure stepped on the empty space and gently landed on the ground. After his footstep landed, the light pillar also quickly dimmed and vanished from this world. Xiao Yang lifted his head and looked at the energy tide in the sky, which had completely vanished. His hair had once again returned to its normal state. However, those dark black eyes occasionally had some golden color flashing within them. It seemed to possess a strange pressure when one looked at it. 7-star Do Xing. Xiao Yang sensed the condition within his body. A joy quickly surged onto his face. The effect of the lightning calamity pill did not disappoint him. He was finally able to break through to the 6-star Do Xing class and leap into the 7-star Do Xing class. This level was already comparable to the older generation experts, like the 4 demon saints of the Hun clan and the 3 immortals of the Jiu clans. Of course, if they were to really fight, Xiao Yang was naturally able to easily defeat them. After all, his D-state soul was not a decoration. It is indeed worthy of being the Tier 9 mysterious pill, lightning calamity pill. Xiao Yang stretched his waist in satisfaction. If he was to use an ordinary method to refine the 9 mysterious golden lightning, it was likely that he would at the very most be able to reach the advanced 6-star Do Xing class. There would likely be quite a great difficulty for him to break through to the 7-star. After all, that small step hid a great difficulty. It is time to leave. However, Yao Lao has yet to send any information. It is likely that the Hun clan is still quiet. These people, what are they waiting for? Xiao Yan narrowed his eyes. There was a chill flashing across time. After counting the time, he found that at least 10 days had passed. They should have already completed their recuperation. The Han clan should be extremely anxious when it come to the Qiushi ancient god mansion. Their current action appeared to be somewhat strange. Of course, Xiao Yan did not think that the Han clan had already headed directly to the Qiushi ancient god mansion and open it without anyone knowing. With Jiu Yuan personally monitoring them, Xiao Yan believed that there would be no one in this world who could escape from his monitoring without anyone learning about it. Han Tiendi, I wish to see just what you are planning. Xiao Yan laughed coldly. He immediately waved his sleeve gently and a crack appeared in the space in front of him. He took a stride forward, entered the crack and disappeared. The many energy bodies sighed in relief after seeing Xiao Yan disappear. Finally, they slowly scattered. This was a completely dark and quiet space. Black fog spread over the sky. A dark and cold force seeped across every part of this place. There was a black hole standing in the sky deep within this place. A figure was seated in the air while dark black flames continued to seep out from his body. Looking from a distance, he appeared just like a black hole that was continuously devouring everything in the world. There were many densely packed black figures below. At this moment, one after another light clusters had flew out from within the storage rings of these black figures. The light clusters were transparent. However, there was a pure energy that could cause one's expression to change contained within them. If Xiao Yang was present, he would be able to recognize that these light clusters were surprisingly the spiritual essence that the Hall of Soul had collected. Back then, Xiao Yang had merely refined a cluster of it, and his spiritual strength had actually reached the perfect heavenly state. However, there were at least over 100 light clusters present. The interior of the black figure seated in the sky suddenly emitted a wild wind-like sound. Immediately black flame surged out in all directions. A suction force erupted and it actually sucked the many spiritual essence light cluster into it. These spiritual essence were directly devoured after making contact with the black flame. With more and more spiritual essence being forcefully devoured by the figure, a wave of terrifying spiritual fluctuation was also gradually being emitted from within the body of the black figure. Roar! This fluctuation became increasingly strong. At the end, it became almost real, causing the space itself to become distorted. A low and deep roar was emitted from the mouth of the black figure. Suddenly, the black figure stood up. Monstrous spiritual fluctuation immediately erupted in all directions like a volcano. Congratulations on Nihility Sir's advancement into the DI state soul. The densely packed black figures below immediately bowed after sensing the monstrous spiritual pressure. Their respectful voice resounded within this place, causing the ground to tremble slightly. Ha ha! The black figure in the sky involuntarily laughed towards the sky. His eyes quickly turned towards a figure on the mountain below and laughed. Han Tiendi, it is time to gather the 8 jades and find out where the Qiushi ancient god cave is located. A figure stood with his hands behind his back on the mountain. He lifted his head to look at the nihility, devouring flame in the sky and smiled faintly. His white clothes caused him to stand out in this seemingly dark and sinister monotonous space. However, no one dared to question this uniqueness. Everyone's eyes were filled with excitement and respect when looking at him. This person was clearly the clan head of the Han clan, Han Tiendi. Han Tiendi took a stride forward and appeared in front of the nihility, devouring flame in the sky. He carefully observed the latter before laughing. Not bad. We have finally allowed you to reach the DI state soul, after spending such a great amount of effort. Ha ha. The nihility, devouring flame also involuntarily laughed out loud. An existence like him would usually have an extremely difficult time training his soul to the DI state. Fortunately, the Hall of Soul had refined many spiritual essence during this years. By using this incomparably large essence strength, his soul was forcefully being pushed up. However, the price of this increase was really expensive. Most of the spiritual essence that the Hall of Soul had obtained through many years of hard work had basically been completely devoured by him. However, the position of the nihility devouring flame in the Hun clan was extremely great. No one would say anything against his enjoyment of such a treatment. There will only be reward if there is effort. Currently, with my strength, it should be possible for me to block Xiao Yan for a moment. If the both of us join hands, it would not be difficult for us to defeat him. The nihility devouring flame said. Han Tiendi laughed and nodded. His eyes were a little excited as he softly said, "It seemed that it is time to probe the location of the Qiu Shi ancient god mansion. As long as we open the mansion and obtain the embryonic DI pill, you will be able to borrow its strength to break into that level no one had reached in 10,000 years, and truly become the strongest existence in this world." The nihility devouring flame licked his lips. Immediately, he changed the topic of the conversation and laughed. "However, you should also not forget that there is also something that I need within the mansion. This was our agreement back then. You can be rest assured. You and the Hun clan are closely related, and we will definitely not lie to you. If it is really as you have said and the mansion has something that you need, I will help obtain it for you." Han Tien Di laughed. The nihility devouring flame nodded with satisfaction after hearing this. The Hun clan had been able to continue existing until now because of him. Naturally, he had his own condition for giving so much help to the Hun clan. Otherwise, even with the strength of Han Tiendi, it would be impossible for the latter to force him to do anything for the Hun clan. Humph, Qiu Shi ancient god. The cold smile that was lifted on the nihility devouring flame's face was scattered. His eyes were turned towards Han Tiendi. At this moment, the latter waved his sleeve. 8 ancient jades slowly flew out from his sleeve. The ancient jades floated above Han Tiendi's head, emitting a faint luster as it did so. They began to beckon each other, creating a brilliant scene in the process. There seemed to be a strange fluctuation, vaguely emitted in the process. Han Tiendi's eyes were fiery hot, as they glanced at the 8 jades. Suddenly, he bit the tip of his tongue. A mouthful of essence blood was spat out, and it immediately landed on the 8 jade. Buzz buzz. The 8 jades, which were originally only emitting a faint luster, suddenly emitted a faint buzzing sound after they came into contact with the essence blood. The light also became increasingly powerful, and the surface of the ancient jade vaguely had some strange lines flowing over it. The Qiu Shi ancient god jade had been scattered for so many years. Now, I shall help put you back together. Han Tiendi laughed out loud as he watched the unnatural phenomenon in the sky. His hand was clenched violently towards the ancient jade. After Han Tiendi clenched his hand, the 8 ancient jades began to directly merge together. However, it did not shatter. Instead, it vaguely showed signs of being connected together, as the light rays crossed each other. Buzz buzz. The ancient jade became increasingly close to each other, and the buzzing sound also became even more intense. One could hear a couple of cracks sound, and 8 pieces of ancient jades were actually directly placed together. Immediately, a light was emitted and a complete ancient jade, which was even larger than his hand, had appeared in the sky. After the Qiu Shi ancient god jade was completely placed together, an ancient and desolated aura was slowly spread from within the ancient jade. There was a faint light fog rising from within the ancient jade, while the ancient aura spread. Immediately, it turned into a somewhat illusory old figure above the ancient jade. The old man was wearing black robes. His hair was made up of a couple of different colors. Each of the color seemed as though there was a flame rising from it, giving him an extremely mysterious appearance. His face appeared extremely ordinary. However, those deep space-like eyes seemed to be like the overlord of the world. Under the watch of those eyes, everyone, even an expert like Han Tiendi, felt their soul quiver slightly. Qiu Shi, ancient god. The only one in this world who could cause Han Tiendi to feel such an emotion was the legendary elite Do Di. This old man was likely the last legendary Do Di on the continent, the Qiu Shi, ancient god. Other than only a handful of experts within the Han clan could resist the tremor and lift their heads, the others mostly had their heads firmly lowered. That feeling was as though they would be directly pressed by a pressure until they explode should they lift their heads even a little. Everyone's heart were filled with horror in the face of this pressure that was far greater than even Han Tiendi. Humph, putting up an act. You are merely just an illusory figure, yet you must try to act mysterious. Han Tiendi's expression was a little gloomy. Clearly, he felt a little furious at this emotion, which he had not felt for many years. His eyes were icy cold as he looked at the illusory figure. Suddenly, his hand grabbed towards the latter. Bang! Han Tiendi's sharp palm wind struck heavily onto that illusory figure. However, his expression suddenly changed when the attack made contact. Soon after, an extremely terrifying strength was abruptly reflected and poured onto his body, sending it flying by thousands of feet. Be careful. Although it is only an illusory figure, it is after all something left behind by the Qiu Shi, ancient god. The nihility, devouring flame spoke in a deep voice. His eyes were also staring at the figure in a dark and cold manner. He involuntarily clenched his teeth, and his eyes became a little complicated. Han Tiendi's expression was a little dark and solemn as he turned around. He was in a bad mood after he had suffered a loss in front of so many clan members. With a frown, he asked, "How can we destroy this illusory figure? Why are you so anxious?" The nihility, devouring flame rolled his eyes and said, "The location of the Qiu Shi, ancient god mansion is hidden within the eyes of the illusory figure." Oh? Han Tiendi was astonished at hearing this. He focused his mind and looked into the eyes of that illusory figure. A moment later, his expression gradually became grave. It seemed that he was indeed able to see some images, but it was not clear. Damn Qiu Shi, ancient god. He actually still had such a technique. Even if an ordinary person managed to gather all 8 jades, it would be difficult to learn of the location of the mansion if he was unaware of its secret. Han Tiendi exclaimed. Even with his strength, he still involuntarily let out a praise in the face of this technique. Nihility, it seems that I have to trouble you. The nihility, devouring flame smiled and nodded. Both of his eyes were suddenly dyed into a pure black color. 2 rays of light shot out from his eyes and entered the eyes of the illusory figure. Light reflected and an image, which was magnified by many times, appeared in the space where the black light was reflected. This is... Han Tiendi narrowed his eyes and looked at the figure in the sky. It was an extremely spacious and foreign region. At a glance, one could tell that this region was not located in the Central Plains. The imagine swept past the mountains near the foreign terrain. After which, it was suddenly shifted downwards and directly entered deep underground. A sea of flame spread over the place as an endless sea of magma appeared. Where is this place? Han Tiendi frowned tightly. From this scene, this sea of magma should be located underground. However, it was still impossible to find its exact location with just this alone. The imagine continued to venture deep into the sea of magma. With the increase in its depth, a kind of mysterious creature suddenly appeared in it. It was a kind of lizard-like creature. There was a fierceness within the creature's eyes. After this kind of lizard-like creature appeared, an ancient stone door began to appear deep within the magma world. The top of the stone door had 3 words. Do Di Mansion. Crack. The scene came to a sudden halt the moment Han Tiandi's eyes paused on those 3 blurry ancient words. He also slowly exhaled. The excitement in his heart had also increased. What do you think? I am unfamiliar with that place. It is likely that I have never been there. The nihility devouring flame looked at Han Tiandi and asked. I am also unfamiliar with it. Han Tiandi frowned. The Do-Chi continent was quite a large place. Although this scene had shown a relatively vast region, it would not be easy to lock onto the exact location within a short moment. He mused for a moment before waving his hand. The 4 demon saints rushed over in a flash. Han Tiandi merely glanced at them and spoke in an indifferent voice. Remember the terrain that you have seen, including the unique aspects of the mountain range, etc. After which, pass them to the clan members still outside. Ask them to use all of their strength to search every possible place. They must confirm the terrain. Tell them not to return if they fail. The 4 demon saints hurriedly replied respectfully and began to issue instructions. I can sense that Gu Yuan is monitoring us. If we send out a large group of experts, it will definitely catch his attention. The nihility devouring flame remarked. It's fine. We'll confirm the location first. I will have my own methods when the time comes. Han Tiandi nodded. He placed his hands behind his back, and his eyes looked towards the flashing ancient jade in the sky. He muttered to himself. After spending such a great amount of effort in order to gather all of you, I do not believe that I am unable to find the location of the cave. Xiao Yan looked at Xiao Zhon, who was playing with Xiao Xiao within the courtyard. He smiled slightly as he heard the old and young laughter. Perhaps it was because there was a blood relation between them, but after this period of familiarization, Xiao Xiao had clearly become a little familiar with this grandfather, who was a stranger. Her joyous manner completely did not treat him as an outsider. Teacher, is there any news of the Han clan? Xiao Yang turned his head around after glancing at the courtyard. He looked at Yao Lao under the stone pavilion and asked. Yao Lao held the teacup and took a gently sip. Immediately, he frowned and nodded. Father has been monitoring the Han clan realm during this period of time. However, there was no signs of a large group of people entering and leaving. There has been hardly anyone who had left the Han clan alone. We have also completely cut off these Han clan members who had appeared alone. However, we did not obtain any useful news. Zun by the side softly said. Xiao Yang also knitted his brow tightly. Logically speaking, the Han clan should not be acting in such a calm fashion. They had been seeking the Qiu Shi ancient god jade for thousands of years. Now that we have found it after much difficulty, how could we not hurry and open the Tuo Shi ancient god jade? Just what are these people doing? Xiao Yang softly sighed. At this moment, being anxious would not have been any help. All they could do was to wait for the Han clan to take action. From the strength that the Han clan had displayed back then, even if they were to launch a big campaign and attack the Han realm, it would likely be a futile attempt. Moreover, if they were ambushed, the Alliance army would definitely suffer a great loss. Regardless of what the situation was, the Han realm had been managed by the Han clan for countless number of years. The latter would have the advantage of fighting in home territory. This was something that Xiao Yang and the rest were unwilling to see. We can only wait now. Yao Lao placed his teacup down and sighed. Xiao Yang smiled bitterly and nodded. They once again discussed about some matter, before Xiao Yang finally lifted his head. He looked at the 2 figures, who had walked into the courtyard, and involuntarily smiled as he stood up and welcomed them. Big brother, second brother. One of the 2 figures who had entered had a somewhat stiffened footsteps, while the other had strong footsteps. These two were Xiao Ding and Xiao Li, who had hurried over from the northwestern region a short time ago. The injuries of Xiao Ding's leg had been treated by Xiao Yang during this period of time. The reason that his legs were unable to move back then was because of the poison from the Han clan. With Xiao Yang's current ability, it would not be difficult to change a leg for Xiao Ding, much less expelling poison. The reason for Xiao Ding's stiff footsteps was due to him not feeling being used to walking with his legs. Xiao Ding Duo grinned after seeing Xiao Yang walking over with a smile. They stepped forward and smashed their fist onto Xiao Yang's chest. A deep bond between brothers was revealed within their eyes. Little fellow, back then I was still asking about why you are totally unconcerned about the Yang alliance. It seems that this is because you possess an even more terrifying alliance on the Central Plains. Xiao Ding laughingly said. Xiao Yang was helpless. He did not really like to manage all these. He was forced by the circumstances when he established the Yang alliance back then. It was his intention to create a faction that would be able to protect the Xiao clan from harm after he left. The Sky Mansion alliance on the Central Plains, however, was established completely because he wanted to deal with the Han clan. Otherwise, he would really not have the mood to organize some alliance. Is the situation at the Yang alliance well? There isn't anything wrong, is there? Xiao Yang smilingly asked. That place is indeed considered a backcountry when compared to the Central Plains. Even the Han clan did not extend its claws too far into it. The current Yang alliance can be considered the overlord of the northwestern part of the continent. Of course, there are also some other fellows who are watching it with ill intent. Xiao Li continued to smile. Both of his eyes were shut. There was a glow glint flowing within them just like back then. In the current Yang alliance, even some subordinates were afraid of this face of his, and did not dare to lie in front of him. However, if those people were to learn that the chief of the Yang alliance also have such an establishment in the Central Plains, it is likely that they will come submitting to us the next day. Xiao Ding shook his head and laughed. Xiao Yang also smiled. However, he was not really interested in this. Forget about the northwestern region of the continent. With his current strength, there were hardly any factions or experts that he was interested in even in the Central Plains. He did not have the time to bother about these small fights. Oh, that's right. Xiao Li suddenly recalled something as he suddenly turned towards Xiao Yang and said, a couple of days earlier, I have received word from the Xiao Gate. It seems that some unknown experts had appeared at the Black Corner region. Those fellows were very similar to those from the Hall of Soul, whom we had fought before. Xiao Yang was startled upon hearing this. He thought for a moment before recalling with a bitter laughter. It seemed that it was the Xiao Gate, which both he and Xiao Li had established at the Black Corner region back then. Now that he thought about it, it seemed that he had left behind a foundation in many places. A person who did not specialize in management had ended up establishing so many factions. This was a little comical now that he thought about it. It could be some of the lingering forces of the Han clan. The Han clan also has some branch halls outside of the Central Plains. However, they are unimportant compared to those in the Central Plains. Xiao Yang shook his head and spoke indifferently. He had received many news of the remnant forces of the Hall of Soul being discovered every day. Hence, he did not really thought much about it. Xiao Li nodded after hearing Xiao Yang's words. He said, in that case, I shall send information to the Xiao Gate and the Jiunan Academy to finish them off. Jiunan Academy. Xiao Yang smiled. He was about to nod his head when a light suddenly flashed across his mind. His body stiffened for a moment. In the next instant, he suddenly lifted his head. Both of his dark black eyes had light wildly flashing within them. The underground magma world. Xiao Yang suddenly cried out explosively, causing everyone within the courtyard to be startled. They hurriedly surrounded him. What is it? Kaylin knitted her brow and asked. Xiao Yang's expression was a little excited. He grabbed Cai Lin's worst and joyously said, "Do you still remember the underground magma world below the Jiunan Academy's blazing sky, Qi refining tower?" Kaylin's cold face immediately turned flush red after hearing his words. She stared at Xiao Yang in embarrassment and unceremoniously withdrew her hand from the latter's grip. How could she not remember that place? It was at that place that Xiao Yang, who had gone crazy, had forced himself on her. Cough. Xiao Yang recovered after Kaylin pulled her hand from his with great force. He looked at Kaylin, who was so embarrassed that she had the impulse to bite at him. He was startled for a moment before he seemed to have recalled something. After which, he quickly laughed in embarrassment towards the sky. Xiao Yang calmed down after laughing dryly. A glow flashed across his eyes. The location of the Qiushi ancient god mansion had always been a mystery. That Qiushi ancient god, Jade, did not show any mysterious signs all the time that it had been in his hand. If one wished to really insist that there was, it would be the strange reaction of the ancient Jade when he was at that place. That place was the underground magma world of the Jiunan Academy. At that place, the Qiushi ancient god had shown a strange reaction for the first and only time. However, Xiao Yang had been chased by the strange creatures at that place until he was running around in panic. Naturally, he did not dare to investigate anything as he directly fled. Now that he thought about it, that magma world did indeed appear a little strange. Perhaps it was possible to find out some information related to the Qiushi ancient god mansion at that place. Teacher, find 10 elite Doshing from the Alliance army to follow me. Zun Kaylin, the both of you should also leave with me. Xiao Yang did not hesitate even a little after he thought of this. He immediately spoke in a decisive manner. Where? Everyone was startled after hearing Xiao Yang's sudden order. The Jiunan Academy. If I guess correctly, that place will likely have clues to the Qiushi ancient god mansion. Xiao Yang spoke in a deep voice. Yao Lao and the rest had a change in expression upon hearing this. Coincidentally, we have built a wormhole that connects to the northwestern region back then. I will lead some people over. Teacher, report this matter to Uncle Jiyu, clan head Lei Ying and Yang Jin. Yao Lao nodded. If it was really as Xiao Yang had said, this would really be a big matter. However, I am also not very certain about this. Hence, tell Uncle Jiyu not to ease up on the monitoring. Once he discover a large group of Han clan experts, all of you should also hurry to the Black Corner region. Xiao Yang quickly said. Relax. After seeing Xiao Yang complete issuing his instructions, Xiao Yang briefly said goodbye to Xiao Zhon, before leading Cai Lin and Zun to hurriedly leave. Yao Lao swiftly turned his head in a grave fashion, and walked towards the meeting room, after seeing the backs of the trio leave. Han Realm. Han Tiendi sat on the leader's seat, within a large hall that had a black flame burning within it. He looked down towards all the bowing human figures below and asked indifferently, "Is there any news?" Replying to clan head, "After our investigation, during this period of time, we have found 5 areas that are similar to the places described on the map. After some careful observation, we have discovered that there is one place which has the greatest similarity." A black-haired old man respectfully replied. "Oh?" Han Tiendi's indifferent eyes finally brightened after hearing this. He smilingly looked at the person below and said, "Continue." That location is called the Black Corner region. Although there are currently many factions present in that place, the general terrain is completely the same as that on the map. The old man replied. Black Corner region. Han Tiendi slowly stood up. His eyes swept over the hall as he said, which group is the closest to that place? Clan head, Elder Hunyu seems to be in that region. He is the person in charge of the Hall of Soul outside of the Central Plains. A person replied. Give him an order to lead all the members of the Hall of Soul outside to hurry to the Black Corner region. Completely eliminate that place. He should understand what to do. Han Tiendi replied in a faint voice. Understood. The black-clothed old man below immediately replied in a respectful manner and slowly withdrew. Han Tiendi lifted his head after seeing the old man disappear. The smile on the corner of his mouth widened. After which, it turned into a loud laughter that resounded within the hall. I have finally found you, ancient god mansion. This video will